Our family was in this church almost 15 years ago to say goodbye to my brother Wade. When I talked to my mom about what she wanted for her service, the first thing she said was that she wanted it to be here at Edenton Street because it was so connected to us and so connected to him. Back then, the shape of our family changed tremendously, and it has changed again now. But one thing remains true and will never change, which is that we're still a family, and that Wade and Mom are still a part of this family and always will be. The biggest difference between being here now and being here back then is, of course, that we don't have my mom to help us get through this. She was always a source of strength, a source of wisdom, a source of grace. She could bring out the brave in anyone, and she brought it out in all of us. Even in her last days, she was comforting us, her family. When she could barely speak anymore, my dad and I sat at her bedside and held each of her hands, and she just kept looking at us back and forth saying, "I'm okay, I'm okay." She was way more worried about us than we were about her. There was one afternoon after she couldn't speak anymore at all, and I found myself at her bedside crying and trying to comfort her that we would be okay, and of course she ended up comforting me. She reached over and held my hand because that's who she was and that's what she did. She comforted us always, right up to the end of her life. But comfort was only a fraction of what my mom was to our family and who she was. As everyone's mentioned, she had an incredible sense of humor. I don't think anyone can doubt that who met her. She was feisty and she was witty, but she always had the ability to make fun of herself and laugh at herself. She was smart as a whip, but tried to never hold that over anyone. Well, unless she was right and they were wrong. Generosity and consideration for others was ingrained in every fiber of who she was. It never left her. It was instinctive to her and natural. During her cancer treatment, even the last week of her life, she always called her nurses and all of her caregivers by their first names. And I asked her, "How do you remember all of them, Mom?" And she said, "Cate, what else am I going to call them? They're here taking care of me. They see strangers all day, every day. It's so important that they know that I know who they are." She was a consistent source of wisdom from things big and small, from you'll almost always regret Prince, but you'll never regret wearing solids. So, to never marry the first boy you date without dating someone else, because you would never buy the first pair of shoes you tried on. Over the last few days, I've heard my mother described as full of life, and I think that's true, but it's an enormous understatement. Every single thing she did to the fullest possible extent. I can think of 100 examples, and I'm sure everyone here can too, but the best example is her devotion to us, her children. She would do anything in the world to protect all of us, no matter what the personal cost was to her. And I know that there are so many sacrifices that she made for us that we'll never know about. But that's why I was lucky to call her my mom. I am who I am today, and I'll become whoever it is that I will become, in large part because she was my mom. And the same is true for Jack and for Emma Claire. She's been a lighthouse to all of us, a point of guidance when we feel lost or we aren't sure what the right thing to do is. She'll always be that source of light to us, I know, pointing in the right direction. Every lesson that she's taught us has become part of our ethic. All of the grace and strength that she's shown during her own life will hold us up in the hard days we face in our own lives. Every smile and every hug she gave us will someday pass on to our own children. My greatest hope and the greatest ambition that I can think of is that we will each honor her by being the people that she taught us to be, and that by doing that, she'll live on in each of us. As you can imagine, and as Glenn mentioned, it was really hard to think of what to say today because she's usually the one who tells me what to say. And also just because there aren't words that are good enough. So I thought about what she would do and what she would want, and as always, I knew that she would want to be the one comforting us. So I know some of you know this, but for many years, my mom's been writing to her children a letter with words of wisdom for us when she passes away and we live on. I hope she doesn't mind, but I'm going to read some of that to you. I know that she wrote it for us, her children, but I believe everyone here and beyond she considered part of her family, and I think that this part at least applies to all of you. I'm going to try to get through this, so bear with me. These are her words. She wrote, "I have loved you in the best ways I have known how. I lament my shortcomings more than you know, for when I was less than I could have been, should have been, you did not get all that you deserve from me. For all I have said about life, I want you to know that all I ever really needed was you, your love, your presence, to make my life complete. You are complete joy to me. I hope you will always know that. Wherever I am, wherever you are, I have my arms wrapped around you." As some of you may know, Emma, Jack, and I ended every conversation with our mom by saying, "I love you more." And she always responded, "No, I love you more." And as you can imagine, none of us ever won that battle. But today I have the honor of being the last to say, "Mom, I really, really love you more."